I just want to close by sharing a story, which is, if you all think back to the way this country felt after the 2016 election, and we woke up in a world where we felt more divided, more distant, more division. And it wasn't just because of who won that race, it was because of how he won that race. And then the years since then have felt like, for many of us, an unraveling of all the things that we feel like America was best at, right? Of cooperation and belonging and belief. And in those moments of unraveling, there are two natural impulses. Right? When you feel afraid, the two natural impulses are either retreat or attack. And many of us in this country went on retreat. We retreated back to our own neighborhoods or our own homes or our own churches or wherever the places where we still felt safe. We gave up on politics. We gave up on the public square. We gave up on the idea that we might still be proud of who we are. And there were others of us who went on attack for good reason, because there were things that we believed, or the very people that we were, that felt unseen or uncelebrated. And in those moments, if you were an immigrant, or you were a transgendered person, or you were a woman of color, or you were someone that felt like the country didn't see you, attacking felt like the right response. And in those moments of deepest division, what you find is that's when the scavengers set in. That's when the hyenas come, who would never have the courage to take on a whole pack of lions. But when they find one that's weakened and alone, they'll attack. Which is why the neo-Nazis and the white supremacists and the online trolls suddenly felt resurgent for the first time in a generation. And we found ourselves seeing hyenas standing over the bodies of fallen lions in places like Charlottesville. And it's a reasonable instinct in those moments to either attack or retreat. That was the world we entered when we started this campaign. And we believe that while that was a logical response, that has never been the American response. It has never been what actually brought us to our best. I remember when I was a kid, and I used to get angry, and I would start trying to hit Johnny. And Johnny would do the strangest thing when I did that, which is he would hold me closer. Because Johnny understood that that frustration, that anger, was just hurt in disguise. And it is easy to believe when you're being attacked, when you're in a fight, that your right response is either to put up your fist to fight back, or to put up your hands and retreat. We believed in something different, which is actually the best response in that moment, is to throw your arms wide open. And to say, like Johnny did, that we believe in those moments you actually love back the hardest. That may seem like a crazy idea if you're fighting a stranger. It's the obvious idea when you're fighting your brother. And there is the challenge American democracy faces, which is in a moment that we believed the people we were fighting were strangers, it was easy to fight. And it seems crazy when you're in a fight to actually open your arms, because it is the most certain way to get hurt. It is also the most certain way to get healed. And that was what we wanted to build, which is a place where people felt bigger and not smaller. Our movement is built on the idea that democracy is an act of love. Because it is easy to believe that in moments when you feel most divided, that's the wrong response. And what democracy calls us to do is something harder, which is to not just love those that are close to us, but believe in the idea that we love those that are different than us. And in that moment, we get called to us at our best. And that was what we found in this campaign. Whether it was the farmer and buyers who, in the truck, telling me why he could never vote for me because where I stood on guns or on choice, mentioned the fact that as a kid, every year his dad would drive him down to 5 Points and pick up 10 addicts and put them in his truck and drive them back out to buyers and bring them into his home and try to get them healthy and back on their feet again. That's a profound act of love. Or whether it was in the Amachi internment camp where we met the Japanese-American survivor of World War II, who in 1942 decided he wanted to serve his country, enlisted in the U.S. Army, and just wanted to go say goodbye to his mother. And so went down to the Amachi internment camp where she was interned, and they would not let him in his United States military uniform, he said goodbye to his mother through the cage fence, and then went off and served his country. That is an act of love. Or whether it was Robin, who many of you know, who was the woman we met on this campaign, who was a huge Trump supporter, until we invited her to our day of service. And we spent the day painting the house with her, and she and I spent a long time chatting. And after the end of that, she showed up 2 weeks later to one of our fundraisers here in downtown Denver. And after I told the story about Ulysses, about my undocumented students who had finally gotten their way into college by making change, and I thought she might walk out in the middle of the event, instead I look up at the end of the event and there are tears running down her face. And she says to me, "Mike, I am so glad you told that story, because we have to do better by those kids. And we're not doing it now. And I want to help." That is democracy as an act of love. And that is why I will tell you there was always only one speech tonight. Because before any of the votes had been counted, this movement had already succeeded in pulling Colorado out of a place where we were in a furious fight, and pulling Colorado out of a place where we were in a deep retreat, and instead bringing us back out into the daylight of the illogical reality that democracy is an act of unconditional love. And when you build that, you find that anything is possible. Which is why, thanks to you, we have already lit a lantern up on the Rocky Mountains to show the rest of the country how they find their way back home, to who we can be still at our best. That is the gift that you gave to this state. That is the gift you gave to this country. And that is the gift you gave to me. And it is one that I will never be able to adequately repay. But tonight, I just want to start by saying from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Good night. Now you lean in. Squeeze! All right. We love you all.